1. Learning the unspoken language. From a very young age, we begin to understand our primary language, and before we enter into grade school, we're able to communicate effectively. In fact, it is estimated by some experts that we may even begin to learn our language and to recognize the voice of our mother before we are even born. It is not only the unspoken language that we understand, however. Babies and young children are also able to understand a look from a parent or a hand gesture, whether it is scolding them or showing them affection. When most of us think about language and communication, we really only give consideration to the part that is spoken out loud. In reality, however, only a very small portion of communication is verbal. By some estimates, the messages that are delivered to us when we communicate from others is only about 7% verbal, with the rest being split between two different other areas. How is it that we communicate? Verbally. Approximately 7% of the language that we use to communicate is spoken verbally. This is strictly the language that comes from the words that we say. Vocal elements. Unless you are speaking in a monotone voice, you will have certain inflections that will help to get across the true meaning of what you're trying to say. Those vocal elements often involve expressions that help to show emotion, such as if you're saying something in a loving manner, or if you're saying it sarcastically. Nonverbal elements. Surprisingly, it is estimated that 55% of communication is through nonverbal elements. This would include anything from our facial expressions to our posture and even our gestures. The majority of the information that is provided in this publication is to help you see how to use the nonverbal elements that are part of communication as a way to truly understand what others are saying. When you understand the nonverbal communication in any discussion, you will find that it is easier to attract someone and to really discover if he is truly interested in you as an individual. Throughout the pages of this publication, you will learn many factors that will help you to attract a man, and to do so by really understanding what he is saying. We will also discuss many other factors, including the following information that we will discuss in greater detail. When you look at relationships, you will find that they differ from one individual to another. There are also typically differences in the types of relationships that are desirable to both a man and a woman. We will look at some of the desires that are typical to men, so you can understand what they may want out of the relationship, and then you can offer it to them. In addition, we will take a look at what many women want out of a relationship. When things work properly, there will be no compromise in your behavior. Everything will come together smoothly in the end. When discussing the unspoken language, we will begin by talking about different signs that the man may show that let you know he is interested. In many cases, there will be specific telltale signs that tell you that he wants you to notice him. Some of these may be done purposefully by the man, but in many cases, it is an instinctive reaction. When you understand what to look for in this regard, it can help you see quickly if there is a possibility for interest, or if it's better to move on. In many cases, communicating with someone is going to be done by both of you looking at each other directly. Although you may look here and there occasionally, the majority of the gaze will be on his face. There are many different signs that may display themselves on the face that can show you if he is interested, and if there may even be the possibility for romance. We will also have an in-depth look at the eyes and what they can tell you about the possibilities for a relationship. In our discussion about the eyes, we are not going to simply talk about the way a man may look if he is interested. The fact of the matter is, if you understand how to read somebody by looking at his eyes, it can really tell you a lot about what is going on behind the scenes. Some of this involves neuro-linguistic programming, or NLP, which helps to break down the direction that the eyes are looking, and you would be surprised with what you're able to learn. In many cases, you will be able to tell at a glance if the man is lying, if he is thoughtful, and even if he is romantic. There is also a lot that can be seen by the way a man is standing and how he is using his hands and arms. For example, if he's standing with his arms crossed in front of him, it typically means that he is either reserved or perhaps he is hiding something. Of course, that is not always the case, but it could be something that will help you to discern what he is not saying. There are also many ways that a man can show that he is open to a relationship by the way he is standing or the way that he is using his hands and arms. We are also going to discuss conversation, something that will eventually take place and can speak volumes if we are listening properly. We will talk about communication and how you can use the conversation properly in order to direct the man and to make the relationship more likely to take place. When you understand what somebody is not saying verbally, it can help you get a deeper understanding about him and his intentions. The information provided in this publication is designed to assist you in finding a relationship and discovering what is taking place behind the scenes when you meet a man. When it is used properly and effectively, it can be used to attract a man in your direction. 2. What do you want out of a relationship? As a woman and a unique individual, you probably feel as if you have a fairly good idea of what you want out of a relationship. In this chapter, we're going to talk about what most women want out of a relationship, regardless of whether it may differ from you slightly or not. In reading this information, you may discover that there is more to what you sought from getting into a relationship than what first met the eye. It may even change your concept of relationships to a certain extent, once you learn what most women want from them. Of course, each of us is a unique individual, and we can't be expected to fit into a mold as if there are no other options available. This information is provided for general purposes and to help you see what most women want when they're in a relationship. It is not meant to change your mind or to help direct you to what you would like to see occur. In reading this information, however, you may find that it provides you with more insight into your own thoughts and feelings. Love. Obviously, women would want to have a relationship where love exists, although it is certainly true that love may be shown in many different ways. In fact, the desire for love is one of the primary things that separate what women want and what men want, as most men desire respect over love. Of course, both love and respect are part of a great relationship, and they need to exist in unison. Respect. One of the universal factors that women consider when looking for a relationship is that they must have a man who respects them. The type of respect may differ from one relationship to another, but it needs to always exist. When you have a man that respects what you say and what you do as well as what you're able to contribute to the relationship, it can help move things along nicely. Romance. Again, this is something that is desired by both of the sexes, but most women have more of a desire for romance in their relationship than men. The type of romance may differ from one individual to another, but if the man in her life shows it, even in a subtle way, most women will appreciate it. Spontaneity. Admittedly, we all tend to fall into a rut from time to time, but most women start a relationship by desiring at least a degree of spontaneity within it. They may even look for a man that is spontaneous so that they can avoid falling into a routine that would tend to drain most of the relationship in question. Humor. This is something that may differ from one woman to another, but most women would appreciate a good sense of humor in a man. In fact, this is one of the traits that may attract a woman to a man in the first place, because it is easier to see the humor that the man possesses before you will see the romance, spontaneity, or respect that he may bring to the relationship. Communication. There is often a bridge that exists between men and women, and that bridge can only be crossed through communication. Proper communication works in two different directions, and it must be mutual in order for it to be beneficial to the relationship. Communication is the primary theme of this publication, and as you will discover, it is something that you can learn more about, even though you already understand the spoken language. Family. Most women would like to have a sense of family, either because they had it as a younger individual or because it is something that seems to be missing in their life. In fact, many women will judge a man based on how he treats his mother and if he gets along with his siblings. This may be something that you are considering when it comes to the relationship that you are having with a man as well. Intimacy. Although men don't really consider this to be something that women want out of a relationship, most women desire the intimacy that goes along with a close relationship between a man and a woman. The degree of intimacy that is desired may differ from one woman to another, but it almost always exists. This chapter has outlined some of the more common traits that a woman would want to see in a man. As was discussed in the outset, there may be differences from one woman to another, but you will typically find that you have these desires, at least to a limited extent, when it comes to the man that you are looking for as well. 3. What does he want out of a relationship? In the previous chapter, we discussed some of the things that most women want out of a relationship with a man. In this chapter, we're going to flip the tables and take a look at some of the things that may be desired by a man in the relationship. By understanding what a man wants, you can send out proper signals and make it much easier for you to attract a man from the very start. As was the case when we discussed what women want out of a relationship, there are going to be variations that occur from one man to the next. This list is general in nature, but it is one that can help you get an overview of what most men would like out of a relationship from the very start. Typically, there will be at least some desire for each of these traits, and if you can display them properly, the attraction can begin. Respect. One of the most important traits desired by most men in a relationship is respect. In fact, if you are able to display true respect to a man, including who he is, what he does, and what he says, you will be taking a huge step toward the attraction that can get the two of you together from the start. A lack of respect would make it very difficult for a man to be attracted to you, and if you display a lack of respect after you are together, it can ruin the relationship. Love. Men also need a degree of love when it comes to the women they are attracted to. In some cases, this love is going to be closely associated with respect, and they may even feel as if the respect you are showing is an outward display of the love that you feel for him. They are also going to want some of the same type of love that you desire, which is how most couples are compatible. Intimacy. Most men are going to have a strong desire for intimacy in the relationship. This is not only true when it comes to sex, it is also true when it comes to general intimacy and the feelings between a man and a woman. Communication. Believe it or not, most men desire communication just as much as women desire it. You may be wondering why most men tend to be incompatible with women when it comes to communicating. It is because they communicate differently. This publication is about the nonverbal type of communication that could really help to attract a man to you. It can give you an overview of who he is and what he is thinking. Make sure that you use this information not only when you're trying to find a man, but during the entire time that you are in a relationship. You will find that most men communicate non-verbally, and if you can understand what is going on behind the scenes, it can make the relationship strong. Physical. Although most men are going to think about physical touch as a form of intimacy, they also need to feel as if they have your attention in a physical way as well. It could be as simple as holding his hand, or perhaps touching him on the back as you walk beside him. In either case, that type of physical contact can go a long way in helping to build a relationship and keep it strong. Space. Most men desire at least a little bit of space when it comes to relationships. Although they may want intimacy and closeness within a relationship, it is also important not to smother him and to make him feel as if he cannot move in one direction or the other without running into you. Of course, all of this becomes a balancing act at some point or another. But if you're able to balance it properly, you would be surprised with how well the relationship will do. Security. A sense of security is very important to most men, and you can give them that security in a number of different ways. One of the primary ways that the security must be seen is in that they need to know that you are going to be there for them and will not simply disappear off the scene without a warning. Like most women, men want to feel secure in the relationship on a very basic level, and on a deep level as well. Attraction. From the very start, men are going to look at the women that they want to get to know better because of the general attraction that they feel toward them. Admittedly, some of this attraction is going to be physical, so it is necessary to pay attention to how you look and how you act. In addition to the physical attraction, however, a man is also going to want to be attracted to her as a companion and a friend. You can do a lot to make this type of attraction happen from the start, and it can go a long way in getting the relationship going. Playfulness. Although this is going to be something that does differ from one man to another, most men are going to appreciate a degree of playfulness when it comes to the women in their lives. You need to make sure that this is balanced, however, because too much playfulness can end up pushing him away, but the right amount of playfulness will make him yours forever. Maturity. Finally, most men will appreciate a degree of emotional maturity in the women that they have in their lives. This type of maturity can be seen in any number of different ways, but it can really help to build a relationship if a woman is able to manage her emotions and deal with conflict properly. When a woman is overly emotional, it can push a man away. These are only a few of the many different things that men look for when it comes to relationships with women. Most women are surprised to learn that there is a lot that goes on behind the scenes, and men are looking for more than just somebody to be intimate with. Of course, intimacy matters, but it is the entire package that really makes a difference in the relationship.